Alrighty, hey, we are back with more of my favorite tournament replays. This time around, we are doing battles from Smogon Tour playoffs. So the usual rules apply, nothing that only exists in the form of a text log, and nothing that I have already covered on the channel. So you can go peruse through my old videos if you like. I will just point you in the direction of CL versus Cosine 180 for the finals of Season 21. I went all out on that one, and it is considered by long-standing viewers of the channel to be among my best work. So, let's see, what else do I have to get out of the way? The background music, if you're looking for that, then it is in a very public, very available playlist on my channel in the playlist section called Background Music, so whatever you hear in this video, you will find there. And, Discord, come join, it's great, it's in the description. Patreon, if you really like me, that's also in the description. And liking and commenting on the video helps the YouTube algorithm to help me become a superstar. Also, thank you for 9,000 subs. It means a lot. So, let's get into the meat of things. This battle is Oris OU, so Gen 6, and it was played November 17th, 2017, so Season 24. Some context. Posho at this time, since it is Posho versus FLCL, or Fooly Cooly, which is a lot easier to say, Posho was at the peak of his powers. He had reached the finals of Season 22, so 2 seasons before the time this battle was being played, and won Season 23. So we're not doing entire series in this battle, because it is a best of 3 in the most recent 3 generations of OU. So at the time of this, then it was Black and White, Oris, and Sun and Moon. So we're not doing the entire series, just one battle from a series. But at the time of this series, he was just looking absolutely unstoppable. So everyone was thinking he was going to reach 3 finals in a row and possibly win 2 in a row. And his opponent, of course, was no one to be taken lightly, since Fooly Cooly has a lengthy history of tournament success himself. But everyone was thinking, wow, how can anyone stop Posho? So this was the Oris game from their series. And here we go. Well, first of all, the teams. Posho is running something bulky, reliable, threatening nonetheless, so he's not just being purely passive, whereas FLCL is going incredibly aggressive with Alakazam, Scizor, probably a Life Orb Zam and a Mega Scizor, because regular Zam is a lot better than regular Scizor, and the underseen Klefki for spikes. So here we go. Lando lead, Tangrowth, we don't know what kind of Lando this is, because it could be Scarf. I remember at this time there were a lot of Scarf Rocks pokes in Sun and Moon, and that translated over to Oris, because he could be either running Scarf Latios or Scarf Landorus, but if the Landorus is Scarf, then it also has to have Rocks, because it's his only rocker. So he doesn't want to necessarily let his rocker get slept right off the bat, because especially with Excadrill as a possible, with Excadrill threatening to spin the rocks, because then he won't be able to get him back up, whereas an Awake Landorus comes back in on Drill and gets the rocks right back up. So Posho doesn't have anything Stealth Rock weak, but it's still good for helping break through his team. So, especially limiting what the Regenerators, Slowking and Tangrowth, can pull off. So he doesn't risk a U-turn, so he doesn't get any possible Rocky Helmet chip on his team, on his Lando. That would be unnecessary, and just goes to Klefki to take the sleep, because it's likely that this is Rocky Helmet Tangrowth, because Posho has Slowking and Latios for Keldeo, so there's no need for Assault Vest. Assault Vest kind of sucks in Oris anyway, but it's really just going to be physically defensive to stave off Mega Metagross. So Rocky Helmet tends to run Sleep Powder, and he figured, well, if there's an Excadrill, then Klefki is absolutely worthless, so it's the best thing to take the sleep. Posho just goes for a Giga Drain and then a knockoff, so that probably suggests he does not have Sleep Powder, because otherwise it was incredibly free there. And the reason you wouldn't run Sleep Powder on Helmet Tang is because you don't want to just have a useless poke against things like Pharaoh and Amoonguss and Gliscor, so you would want to just spread more irritating stuff with Giga Drain, Knockoff, Hidden Power, maybe a Leech Seed, maybe Earthquake. So we're not sure yet. We'll see. But he gets rid of Klefki's lefties And that FLCL doesn't really mind, because, you know, if he can get spikes out of this Klefki, that's great, because, you know, usually Klefki just thuds against Excadrill, but we also don't know if it's a Scarf Excadrill or if it's a lefty set, because lefty sets have to lock into a move, and that can be played around more easily than a lefty set. But it also might not be Scarf, because he could just be running Sand Rush alongside Tyranitar. So it remains to be seen. And he finally does reveal Sleep Powder, which was interestingly timed. So FLCL was thinking, all right, well, I'm going to get the jump on Excadrill, and so he doesn't come in and spin my stuff away and I can't do anything to him. And, you know, if I can maintain the spikes and then get up the rocks, that can be really nice. And now Posho finally reveals Sleep Powder, and that was really nicely done by him, because he made FLCL think, all right, well, he doesn't have Sleep Powder. He made everyone think that, probably, who was watching, because Sleep Powder seems so free, but instead of burning it immediately on Klefki, yeah, he gives up a spike, but he gets something a lot more valuable in return, Sleeping Rotom. Which is incredibly useful because it burns everything except Heatran, who obviously doesn't want to take Hydro, and Volt Switch is for free because nothing wants to absorb Volt Switch. So, because the ground type also gets destroyed by Hydro, so sleeping that was really valuable. So, FLCL goes to his Scizor, does not lose its item on the knockoff, so definitely Mega. So, we don't know what what its last move is, Leech Seed or Hidden Power, or Stun Spore. So, he just goes for a U-turn, not doing a ton, and eating a Rocky Helmet hit, so revealing himself to be more of a bulky Scizor. But bulky Scizor is still going to be running Swords Dance. So now he goes to Latios on the Giga Drain, and Tangrowth is finally going to be forced out with a Spike Up. So we don't know what's coming in. Slowking, Heatran, T-Tar are all reasonable bets. It is Slowking because it can regenerate off even a Draco Meteor, even well, that didn't do too much. So either it doesn't feel like Specs, feels more like Scarf. So, Posho now makes a double to Excadrill and reveals Leftovers. So, Leftovers and no Mold Breaker, so definitely Sand Rush. And FLCL goes to Scizor, looking to grab more momentum on the Slowking, which was forced to slack off, or on a T-Tar that would come in on the -2 Draco and put Latios away, because T-Tar coming into a potential Specs Latios with the Spike Up is not ideal. But Posho goes to Excadrill. Think he was expecting, not sure what he's expecting on Slowking. But actually, no, he probably was expecting Scizor, because this is a U-turn Scizor, so it's not going to have superpower, so free spin. And there it goes. So Fooly just takes the U-turn chip and gets Lando in safely, and now he's going to get up the rocks as Tangrowth comes back in. Not U-turning again, thinking, look, it's just not worth getting Lando chipped for no reason, because the Tangrowth's going to just regenerate that U-turn off right away. So he goes to Klefki on the Tangrowth and eats a Hidden Power Fire, so now we do know Tangrowth's full moveset, Giga, Knock, HP Fire. So while there still is reason not to run Sleep Powder, he wasn't making use of it here. You know, if he was running something like Worry Seed, that would be interesting, but not at this time. So that was just really well played by Posho. So Fooly baits in the Excadrill by going to Klefki on Tangrowth. Tangrowth doesn't want to just give up spikes, but it also doesn't want to get toxic. So it goes to Excadrill, and now Fooly doubles to his Latios, which is very threatening with rocks down, since Surf disintegrates Heatran and T-Tar, and Draco Meteor disintegrates everything else, even Excadrill. But Excadrill doesn't want to stay in here. So Excadrill gains HP while switching into Stealth Rock, because that's why Excadrill is so great. And Slowking eats an Earthquake, so now the possibility of Scarf Latios goes way down, and Scarf Rocks Lando goes way up, especially with how he was... U-turn on Tangrowth with rocks up is at least reasonable, but now the possibility goes way up, because there's no way he's running Scarf EQ Latios. Scarf Latios very much needs to run Draco, Psyshock, Recover, and then Trick or Defog, or rather Defog over Recover. But yeah, so this is some sort of mixed Latios set, and he was looking to EQ a Heatran or T-Tar switch in, possibly Draco Meteor, possibly Expert Belt or Colbur Berry. So Alakazam comes in now, and Alakazam is a major threat because, well, it outspeeds even Scarf Tar, and he has to get in Tar just to have Excadrill outspeed, and threatens Slowking because it's going to be Life Orb, it's not going to be Mega, and threatens everything else. So eating the Scald on the switch, that was a great move on Posho's end, not getting too passive. He knew that Fuli was going to have to try to exploit his slack off, because if he Dracos and Slowking attacks, then Slowking's in not a great spot. But he knew that Fuli wasn't going to Draco. He was just going to try and take advantage of the switch once again with Scizor, or in this case Zam. So Posho makes a great move and scalds, remaining aggressive and making it harder for Fuli. So that was a really nice reading of the situation by Posho. But still, Zam is in now. It's Life Orb, meaning it's stronger than Mega Zam. And good lord, that Shadow Ball does a lot. And that's looking at a ton of special defense investment, but he chips it again. Burn doesn't do anything because of Magic Guard. So in comes Heatran, and Fuli makes a great move in Focus Blast. So that was a move most players aren't going to make. Posho actually made a very smart move, because most players, when they have a Pokemon at very low health, then they're not gonna make the predicting move if that move is inaccurate. Why would you potentially lose the kill on the Slowking? And obviously Posho wants to keep his Slowking alive to some degree, but that was still a great move by Fuli. So now that Heatran doesn't come in on the Shadow Ball and stomach the Focus Blast, I mean, we don't know if the crit mattered or not. Because if it's bulky Heatran, it probably lives 1, but even then, barely. So that was a great move, not just because of the Heatran, but because it prevents T-Tar from coming in and then pivoting out. And if T-Tar wants to come in and set up the sand for Excadrill on that turn, it's going to die, so it can't do it again later. You don't give the T-Tar multiple opportunities to come back in. So great move by Fuli. So now Latias comes in. At full health, Mega Latias will tank Life Orb Zam. And Fuli goes to Klefki and then tries to force Latias out and goes back to back to Latios on the assumed Excadrill that came in last time. Posho stays in and goes for Thunderbolt. So he's revealed to be a Bolt Beam Latias. We don't know Calm Mind or T-Wave or Reflect type. Probably Calm Mind to clean up, but right now that doesn't really matter because Latios is in. It takes an Ice Beam, and Posho is going to just have to try to absorb the Draco with Excadrill because nothing else wants to switch into this Latios now that has Earthquake. So another nice call by Fuli in the team building department. So Excadrill does not like taking that, and it will not be able to take the follow-up Earthquake. So now he's got to go to his Tangrowth to handle Latios, which is never a nice idea. So now Fuli keeps up the aggression. He goes to Landorus on Tangrowth, and Excadrill comes back in looking to absorb another Draco because he couldn't absorb it with anything else. And he was maybe Posho was either looking to absorb a Draco, which was fairly likely, or more likely to get a free turn on the Klefki that would try to switch in on the Tangrowth to mitigate its effect at annoying the rest of Fuli's team because it's not as valuable. And Fuli just goes right to Landorus. Incredibly aggressive move, and one that's paying off in a big way. Because, for the risk of switching Lando into Tangrowth, which can be annoying if he gets his Scarf knocked or just gets chipped in any way, because Excadrill is such a threat, then he's going to... so that the risk was there, but the payoff also was, and props to him for recognizing that. So in comes Tangrowth, and Tangrowth takes nothing from an Earthquake, but with Rocks up, then... Actually, it's still going to regenerate to full, but Rocks are preventing it from coming back in at full. So Fuli goes aggressive once again, and we do see that it was Choice Scarf. He was trying to EQ a double, but Posho makes a great move once more, and Fuli's been aggressively switching all over the place, and that aggression is not just limited to switching. It can be staying in, since we know that Tangrowth can't sleep it and does not threaten it with HP Ice, so Lando won't die, worst case. And the payoff of EQing a Slowking or T-Tar or Excadrill is enormous, so props for staying in there and making use of the prediction. That was badly phrased, but you get what I'm getting at. He knew that he couldn't keep being aggressive and double switching because Fuli was looking for that. So he knocks off Lando's Scarf, which doesn't really do... The chip is more important than the knockoff. I guess that now Latios outspeeds it when it can't get U-turned on, but he also might have just been expecting Latios to come in. So either Latios comes in and gets knocked, or Lando stays in and EQs. So, and if Klefki comes in, if Fuli's trying to avoid Klefki coming in because it keeps giving extra drill switches. So you can get into a hairy situation there, and you'd prefer Latios. So nice move by Posho to cover both the Lando and the Latios, which were the most likely scenarios. So now he U-turns, really chipping. He's embracing the chip because now Tangrowth with the extra EQ and the U-turn, really getting hammered here. So Klefki comes in. Is FLCL going to predict the switch again? Goes back to Lando, and in comes T-Tar, and he does. Great move once more, not letting up on the aggression ever. So Tangrowth comes in, takes another U-turn, this time with Sand, so really... And see, here comes Scizor to pile it on, and with Heatran down, then, Extra doesn't like taking this. U-turn out of Drill, here comes Lando once more. Lando, it's a slower Scarf Lando, and a... Oh, no, sorry, Sand Rush. Sand is up, so just Sand Rush. So he just spins, and he gets rid of the rocks, but Lando takes Drill out. So there we go. So turns out it's a T-Wave Latios, not a Calm Mind Sweeper. So Klefki comes in, just sacks itself just so we can get up a layer of spikes. Here comes Lando, EQs, takes out the Tar, probably a banned set. So there wasn't going to be a bulky one that could take such a hit. So Latios is coming in, and Fuli's not risking anything, not risking any more freeze, crit, para, whatever then he has to. So he U-turns, Latios takes it, and now it's in range of Zam. And now there's really no hope for Posho because he just has to switch around, and he's still going to die to the Zam. So that was expertly played by Fuli Cooley, and he wound up winning the series and going to the finals. So this was one of my favorite Oris games ever. So major props to both players. They were really on fire. Next up, we have Empo versus ABR from November 21st, 2018, so season 26, I believe, yeah. And it was the quarterfinals, yeah. So this is Ultra Sun and Moon, not regular Sun and Moon. So I thought this game was really interesting because both players have Lopunny, and ABR's mixing it up with a bunch of Pokemon that handle defense, because Lopunny's famously good against offense, which I think he was expecting Empo to run, but against defense it kind of flounders, so he's got stuff like Hydreigon, Magnezone, Gliscor, and Tapu Fini. Plus very likely Healing Wish from Jirachi to help anything out. I really liked Defog Z Hydreigon sets around this time in Ultra Sun and Moon. It was very cool. So Empo, on the other hand, has Lopunny of his own and a more all-around offensive team with another underrated dragon pick, Kyurem. So it's really Lopunny plus underrated dragon on both sides. So let's get into it. So Jirachi leads off against Empo's Lopunny. So we don't know what kind of set it is. If it's Scarf, it's some sort of bulky support set. Probably Scarf because, it could be Scarf Zone or I guess Scarf Hydreigon. Likely or Scarf Zone, but... well, if it's Z Hydreigon, then it's probably not going to be Sub-Z Magnezone, which was the set used to trap Mega Mawile. So that's less like. So it's likelier that it'd be Scarf Zone, but it could also, we're not sure yet. We have to wait and see. So Jirachi either way doesn't want to stay in and get high jump kicked or faked out, so he just goes to Tapu Fini on the fake out, and now threatens Lopunny out, or he doesn't, because Empo makes a great move knowing he's going to survive a knockoff, or not a knockoff, a Moonblast, even though it's super effective, and ABR goes for Nature's Madness, which is the likelier move, because that is a lot more effective against a Rotom switch-in, which is trying to take advantage of a Tapu Fini, than just Moonblasting it. Moonblast is okay, but Nature's Madness really irritates it, especially with Rotom's low HP stat. So that was a great move by Empo, and Frustration does a ton. So Feeney's actually threatened out, and it's looking pretty dangerous early on against this Lopunny. I mean, it still looks like a roll, and Empo's not actually going to risk it, and ABR knows he has to stay in. He can't really chance it. Of course, Lopunny going down to half health gives ABR the edge with his own Lopunny because he can now fake it out to death more easily. And of course, if Empo switches out, predicting that, then ABR can do stuff like Ice Punch a Lando or High Jump Kick a Magearna, whatever he's predicting. So it gives him a lot more options. So now he Moonblasts and does nothing to the Rotom, gets a special defense drop. But Rotom does not have lefties, so it's very likely to be Eapapa Berry because he's got, with Kartana and Magearna, well, the Magearna is going to be Assault Vest because it's his Greninja answer. But between Kartana and Kyurem and Lando, then it's very unlikely that he's chosen Rotom to be his Z-move user. So either way, he's going to stay in, and Nature's Madness just to chip that Rotom down because the name of the game here for both players is to chip the opposing team into Lopunny range. And Rotom being weakened is one less Pokemon that can potentially stand in Lopunny's way. Now it's just Lando with Ice Punch can be broken through, and Magearna, which can be dealt with via Hydreigon. So with the drop special attack definitely helped since it let him stay in on the Volt Switch. But either way, he was living that Volt Switch and going for the Nature's Madness just to really bring the Rotom down. So here comes Lopunny once again, and so good moves on both players' ends, and now ABR has to deal with the threat of Lopunny. So in comes Gliscor on the Frustration, taking not less than a half, but he's got to watch out for the Ice Punch, and looks like Empo doesn't have it because he does not go for it and switches to Kyurem. Don't think he was predicting a switch, because if he was predicting a switch to Jirachi, he would just High Jump Kick, not go to Kyurem. So Kyurem is in to take advantage of Gliscor. With Feeney weakened, that's also nice for Kyurem. He's still got to deal with the Jirachi, but if it's Scarf, then it's not healing, and it's taking a boatload from Earth Power. So there's the sub, there's no lefties, so it's probably Metronome, which was not known to be bugged at the time. So Metronome or Z, and looks like it is a bulky Jirachi because it takes very little and heals with leftovers. So since Iron Head does not immediately threaten with a KO, then Empo goes for Earth Power again because he's looking at 3 at KO. Potentially, because he's done 36 and 38, and Jirachi's hanging around that 38-ish mark. Because remember, it shows 39, but it's always a little lower. And even 0.5% can be big. So he goes for it because either he Iron Heads and doesn't get rocks, because it's very... Well, at this time, Stealth Rock Gliscor was really popular. So he could have been expecting that, but he also could have just been looking to chip the Jirachi down. And so ABR gets rocks, but now Jirachi's in a rough spot against the Kyurem. We don't know the set, and he double switches to Lando as ABR goes to Feeney. I think he was just trying to sack the Feeney because he figured it was less useful against Lopunny and Kartana, whereas Jirachi can potentially get a healing wish off, which makes it useful even at low HP if we get it on Magearna. So there's that. Of course, Feeney can just get a Nature's Madness off if it's weakened, but Jirachi seems to be the more valuable of the two. So Empo going to Lando. I'm not sure what he was expecting. Maybe he was trying to switch it in on a potential Protect, like if he expected a Wish Protect Iron Head Stealth Rock set, and that would give his Lando an opportunity to come in and get up his own rocks, because that's his only rocker. So he does not go for the rocks on the Feeney. He goes to Rotom, and ABR switches to Gliscor, looking to absorb an Earthquake aimed at finishing the Feeney off. So both players run from the other, and Rotom comes in, not quite in Eapapa range. It's just hovering a little above 25%. And against Gliscor, it obviously is favored a one-on-one. And now he double switches, but he switches to Kyurem, and which is fairly curious because I don't know if he was just afraid of being outspit and facaded, which I guess is a valid one. So, and if he switches out and back in, then he'll get the Eapapa later, which can be nice. So we went to Kyurem, but ABR was not looking to risk his Gliscor, and he decided I'll just go to Jirachi, Healing Wish Feeney maybe? but either way, he was just looking to play around the Rotom, and Empo switching around is a lot more painful for him because he has to deal with rocks. So now Jirachi is definitely out of Earth Power range, and ABR capitalizes on Empo's force switch by going for a U-turn, eating the Rocky Helmet, so no Z-Lando, and here comes Hydreigon. He goes right for the straight Dark Pulse, not risking anything, and now he gets aggressive, staying in on the Magearna, which threatens, because remember, a lot of AV Magearna run Ice Beam over Floor Cannon, specifically because it handles Gliscor, which would otherwise wall it all day and prevent it from Volt Switching, and it still handles dragons, but that also means it's not going to Oko Hydreigon in one swoop. But even if he does have Flora Cannon, and even if he goes for it, then his end game here is weakening the Magearna for the Lopunny, because look at it. Lando is at 72% with rocks up, and it's not healing, it's not going to have Iapapa, it doesn't have lefties, and so that's already danger. And Rotom is already pretty much almost entirely out of the picture. Kyurem's a victim, Lopunny's a victim, Kartana can get in the way with Scarf, but that's a lot easier to play around because ABR has Magnezone, so he made the right move. He didn't try to play too safe, he knew he had to play aggressive, and he weakens the Magearna. Even if he just got that one Earth Power off, it would have been worth it because he weakens the Magearna into range. So here comes Magnezone for the trap, and he just goes for a Volt Switch, so looking like a Scarf set. So probably Z on the Hydreigon, probably Z Dark, and Scarf on Zone, so because Sub-Z Magnezone would not run Volt Switch. So Scarf for specs, but likely Scarf just for general speed. And so that was a better move because he ensures the Magearna removal and doesn't let Empo keep it as death fodder, and prevents Lopunny from taking needless helmet chip. So now Lopunny comes in, forcing the Lando back in, and he's going to take a little bit of chip just for the Mega and the Fake Out, so this makes Lando even worse at dealing with it later. And now, instead of going to Gliscor, he's going to go to Tapu Fini. Great move on Empo's end. Fantastic foresight, knowing he has to stay alive by keeping his by being aggressive, and he doubles to Rotom and gets his Iapapa off, so that was really nicely done. Problem is that he's just going to get Moonblasted, not risking Nature's Madness accuracy. And so, valiant effort, but it's not looking like it's going to be enough. So here comes Lopunny again, and it looks like it might be walled by Gliscor without Ice Punch. And normally, I think the idea of his team is that Kyurem would take advantage of this, but he didn't get the most out of his Kyurem, so that didn't work out, and Gliscor reveals itself to be Ice Fang, not Facade, so that's why he switched out of Rotom earlier. He Ice Fangs, chips the Lando, which U-turns, tries to force it out, but it's just not going to be enough. He's too far behind. So he goes to Magnezone, which was fairly interesting because you would think that he would want to keep it around for the, what's it called? The Kartana, but then you look at it and he really can't do anything else because Fini dies, Jirachi dies, and they would give it a sub, so Empo made the right move by subbing. Gliscor is at -1 attack, so it's not going to do anything there either. So he really had no choice but to sack his Magnezone, so that was interesting. But Lando doesn't even get helmet chip on it anymore, so it's really up to Kartana at this point. But the fact that he doesn't go to Kartana and he said he goes to Lopunny is interesting because Scarf Kartana, this is a Scarf Kartana dream scenario. He doesn't fake out, he just goes right for frustration, not letting ABR play around it by going to Gliscor. So that was a great move on Empo's end. And so now Kyurem gets sacked. And I mean, you would say without rocks up, then Leaf Blade's not KOing Lopunny from here. And then, and you need to Sacred Sword, and then Gliscor can come in on that, and, it gets rough. But the fact he's not going for it suggests he might not be Scarf to begin with. He might be running a team without a Scarfer because he relies on Lopunny to be his offense against fast Pokemon. So that's probably what's going on here, and Kartana comes in on the Gliscor as it gets roosted. And there is a big reason why it's not going to run Ice Punch too, because to be as good as offense as possible, then you would run Quick Attack alongside Fake Out. So And Cortana reveals itself to be choice banded, so it's looking like game right now because ABR's Lopunny is just going to take over. So I had to think about it for a bit then I realized that that was what every Lopunny was running. So without Rocks Up, then Gliscor was able to come in and wall Empo's Lopunny and prevent it from getting into a more, what's it called? Not relentless, but more thorough trading game, because Empo was not able to force as much with his Kyurem, with his Lopunny, as he would have liked. If he got Rocks Up, then yeah, because Gliscor is not switching into Lopunny safely without Rocks Up, and it's a lot harder to switch around Kyurem, so Rocks versus no Rocks really went a long way in this one. So props on predicting again, but at this point it's too late. Napier is just playing the safe game, and if he hits high jump kick on Kartana, then that's game. And that is game. So, really nice game, though. I did enjoy this one, and it had a bunch of very interesting dynamics. So, I'm going to take one of my famous bathroom breaks, and then we will move on to another ABR game, this time against McMegan. Alright, we're back. I hope the team preview has hyped you up in my absence. Rain on Rain. McMegan is running something very unconventional because Rain teams nowadays always have a spinner. Usually Tentacruel, often Starmie, rarely just Excadrill. And McMegan is forsaking that in favor of all-out offense. So Jirachi tends to have its offense stuffed nowadays. And there was a time where Sub-Calm Mind and Sub-3 attack sets were really dangerous, but not so much. So it was interesting that he chose to bring it, and we don't know what Lando set it is, and we don't know what Breloom set it is either. So I believe this was one of the last games played with sleep allowed in black and white. So here we go. Lando on Jirachi. Most players would... In most Rain games, then you just lead off Politoed versus Politoed. Sometimes you lead off Ferrothorn to take advantage of the other guy leading Politoed, but there's not one Ferrothorn in two Rain teams, so that's always something to appreciate. So, Lando on Jirachi. Lando's actually kind of a threat because its U-turn stings everything that takes Earthquake on ABR's team. So, in comes Rotom. Unusual pick on Rain, but can definitely work, especially with the Scarf set, and that U-turn does so much that it's definitely Scarf. It's not packing a ton of bulk. So, Jirachi had to run from Lando, and McMegan off to a great start. Leading off Lando against a Rain team might not seem like the best, but it prevents Breloom from taking advantage of McMegan's own Politoed lead, and it threatened out Jirachi. I think ABR was expecting either a Breloom of McMegan's own or Latios to take advantage of his own Politoed lead, so that's a really interesting dynamic. Oh, this game was from the finals of Smogon Tour 28 in December 22nd, 2019, by the way. So yeah, both players were expecting the other player to lead with something that takes advantage of the standard Politoed lead. So ABR's Jirachi covers a Breloom or Latios lead, and McMegan read that beautifully and led off with Lando, which would also cover a Breloom, also cover a Latios, and would also cover Jirachi. So that was a really smart move. So yeah, now in comes Latios, and instead of just tricking or Draco Meteoring, he goes back to Landorus, knowing that ABR's Rotom is Scarf, and he's just going to go for the Volt Switch to see what kind of, if it's Scarf Latios or not, so he can't potentially trick. Well, no, sorry, let me rephrase that. So he can Volt Switch and see if he's going to stay in or switch, because if he's trying to take advantage of a Jirachi switch, he can just go to Politoed and get Rain up, and Volt Switch there would be really nasty, but McMegan makes a great move. Either ABR is Volt Switching, or he's going to Jirachi, his one answer to Latios, and he goes to Lando, and looks like he's running a slower Scarf Lando, which I'm a big fan of, because when you don't run max speed Scarf Lando, then you get more opportunity for power or for bulk, both of which are really valuable. Bulk on Scarf Lando, don't underestimate it, because it switches into Terrakion a lot better and handles like Garchomp and Dragonite better. And attack, of course, is very useful. So now here comes Latios again. So McMegan's taken no damage and chipped the Rotom beautifully. And he knows it's still locked into Volt Switch. So now it's not even a risk to go to Lando anymore, as if Rotom was ever going to Hydro Pump or HP Ice the Latios in that situation. But still, he keeps up the aggression. He gets Lando back in on Jirachi, just like turn 1, except now one of ABR's EQ switch-ins completely dies to U-turn. So he's doing it beautifully, and he just goes right for the Earthquake, and in comes Breloom. He figured ABR's so behind that he's got to stay, and he's got to start taking a risk. Got to go for a Body Slam, because it's very likely a special defense Jirachi that can take one Earthquake, and he's just going to stay in and try to ruin me with Para. And you could say that maybe he could have just U-turned to Politoed or Jirachi, but we don't know what sets those are, so he might be trying to preserve those. And ABR makes a great move, not just losing his Jirachi, because if Jirachi goes down, then Latios will run him over easily. So he makes a great move, goes to Breloom, and shows that it's Poison Heal, so it's going to Protect. So Latios gets less opportunities there, because Protect reveals Trick or Draco. So he protects, and McMegan reveals himself to not even be Scarfed. So he's just running an offensive Lando. So, or offensive defensive, because bulky Rocks Lando can still be a very offensive threat, even without any attack investment. So this Lando is a major threat. Now that he knows he can't even lock it into a move to abuse it, so i.e. Protect on Tentacruel or Breloom won't help him. That said, a faster Tentacruel can threaten Scald, especially in rain, so U-turn still chipping real hard, and ABR just goes for Facade, which would hit Latios really hard, and McMegan makes the right move, goes to his Jirachi, and he also U-turns, so tons and tons of offensive pressure, and Jirachi takes a little bit of chip, and Lando is back in. So here comes the Politoed, U-turn once again, relentless, here comes the Breloom. So Protect, Swords Dance, you don't really see Swords Dance on non-poison healed Breloom, because Technician has usually forgets it in favor of moves like Low Sweep or Super Power or Focus Punch, basically a non-Mach Punch stab. But Swords Dance makes it even more difficult to deal with, and he's forced to sack his Rotom to Bullet Seed. So even a +2 Mach Punch with Fighting Gem is not going to KO Latios here. So McMegan goes right to Jirachi, absorbs the Draco Meteor, and he U-turns once again as ABR is forced to switch out. He makes the right move, brings in Lando once more. Latios comes back in. McMegan is relentless with the U-turns, because sometimes players are going to think, oh no, now he's going to predict me. Now he's going to predict me. And he knows ABR can't risk the Jirachi. He's reading the situation perfectly. He's relentless. Here comes Jirachi once more, and he gets up Rocks this time. Doesn't U-turn. Now, unfortunately, ABR makes a great move and goes to Tentacruel here, not getting caught up in the U-turn chain anymore, because now Tentacruel is faster, because Tentacruel runs a lot of speed, and will threaten Lando with Scald. So he makes a great move there, and he goes for a sub, because it will prevent Body Slam Para, and he can scout for Thunder, and obviously if it U-turns, then he's going to keep the sub up. So ABR is running a devil of a Tentacruel set in Substitute Protect, which is incredible. If you don't face a Jellicent, it's better than any other Tentacruel set by far. And Jellicent is really struggling in the meta, and was at the time of this battle, because it just falters against Sandforce Excadrill. So it's an absolute pain in the ass if it's allowed to do its thing in rain. So McMegan reveals himself to have a Encore Politoed of some sort. So since the Lando is in Scarf, and the Jirachi is in Scarf, and we don't know if the Keldeo or Latios are Scarf, but it wouldn't be unlike McMegan to run Scarf Politoed. He's really the only guy who still runs that set, and he somehow makes it work. So in comes Jirachi on the Forced Encore. So nice move, McMegan, knowing, look, this I can't be super aggressive against this Tentacruel. The entire point of that Tentacruel is that you can't be aggressive against it. You play into its hands. It's like sub-protect Gliscor. And Tentacruel has the potential to hack through ABR's entire team, or McMegan's entire team. So here comes Stealth Rock of ABR's own. Now, unlike McMegan, then ABR can spin away hit McMegan's Stealth Rock. So the Stealth Rock that he just put up, that's staying. That's sticking to everything. So that won't necessarily put a dent in the U-turn chain because they still exert a ton of pressure in a very short amount of time and are not immediately crippled by rocks. But it's still a bonus because it chips everything and it reveals stuff like, does the Keldeo have leftovers or does Politoed have leftovers and whatnot. So once again, he switches the Latios, and this time McMegan just goes for the Earthquake. It's a tough trigger to keep pulling over and over. And in comes Jirachi, and it eats a Draco Meteor again. Not a rain-boosted Surf. I think ABR was expecting the Politoed to come in to absorb the easy rain-boosted Surf. That would also go to Jirachi, but McMegan reads that beautifully and goes right to Jirachi. And once more, here comes Momentum, and here comes Landorus, and now the Earthquake is guaranteed because Latios dies to rocks, and Politoed doesn't eat it, and Breloom can't switch in, and Jirachi dies, and Tentacruel obviously dies, so no matter what, we're seeing an Earthquake here, and it cleaves through Politoed, so McMegan is going to go up 6-4. Now, here comes the Tentacruel, and it does not... Letendo does not have lefties, so at full health, it probably could have lived that, but since it's not at full health, it's not. So it goes down, and here's the thing with Tentacruel and stupid Scald, that you can't switch around it. So with Breloom and Latios and Keldeo, then Tentacruel is a massive, massive threat. So here comes Breloom again, because it can Swords Dance through the... it can Bullet Seed through the sub, and if Tentacruel tries to protect, it can Swords Dance. So he just goes right for the Bullet Seed, and Tentacruel crits the Scald, better than a burn, but still not good, and Bullet Seed does an absolute ton, but only hits twice. So he's still in the danger zone, and he's going to go for the Protect. Swords Dancing is just too risky. So he goes for another Scald, and this time he gets burned, and Bullet Seed hits twice again, and this time it doesn't do anything, and Breloom goes down. So that was really, really unfortunate, to say the least. Now, Jirachi does not appear to have Protect, and it is at 64%. So even though ABR can protect against it, then now here come the Specs Draco Meteors, and Jesus, that does a lot. So that is some form of hope. He goes for the Body Slam, gets the Para on the Keldeo. No Lumberry, so no hope of an unorthodox Lum Calm Mind Keldeo to cut through Jellicent Stall like was used a long time ago. So that's dangerous. At least it means Keldeo or Tentacruel can Scald Burn it, but it's just going to sub-protect until Keldeo paras, so just as bad. And Jirachi can Iron Flinch it now. Now, it's unlikely Jirachi stays in and risks it because he can get rid of the rocks, and he still wants the Jirachi. That said, he actually probably wants to Iron Flinch at least once so he can be out of range of another Latios Draco. So then he can switch around it by going to Latios and then back to Tentacruel on the -2, and that would work, especially in conjunction with Protect on Tentacruel and Breloom. So he goes for one Iron Head and gets the Para, and he's just going to keep going for it. And he gets another one, so now you would think he's going to go for the Latios sack. Although I guess if he can help it, he can just take out the Keldeo and then spin with Tenna and keep his own Latios. And Keldeo's just para-flinching to death, and now he reveals U-turn, and now he's going to sack the Latios. So Jirachi is now definitely going to be able to withstand another Latios assault and dance around it. So it looks really, really not good. And he U-turned. That was not just a great move to keep his... Whoa, sorry, I'm trying to expel like 16 thoughts. Basically, he U-turned there to put the Keldeo into guaranteed range of... what's it called? Body Slam, not even Iron Head. So now we don't know what he goes for the Healing Wish immediately, and in a way that was better than going right to... the way it worked out, in a way, it might have been better than going right to Jirachi and Healing Wishing, because he forced the ABR to sack his Latios. So now ABR no longer has the sack, and so like he let his Keldeo pretty much die before going to it and Healing Wishing. And I guess you could say that he could have just gone to Jirachi and U-turned and then gone to Keldeo, and ABR has the Latios sack. But the way it worked out here, moved the Latios sack, and now ABR is going to be up 3-2. Or sorry, McMegan's going to be up 3-2 because Keldeo goes for a Surf, which does not appear to be Specs because it does not KO the Breloom. But that was nicely done. So you could nitpick McMegan's methods, I'm sure, but the way he actually managed to get ABR to sack the Latios, that was surprising. I don't think many players would have thought of that. Okay, go away, ad. Which battle? Yes, here. So that was really nicely done. So here comes the Tentacruel. What is the set? It's not quite... it's not Specs, otherwise this game would be over. And he's just going to keep spamming Surf and hope to avoid... Well, at this point, also, if he can bring down the Tentacruel somehow, then Latios is very likely to win, or Latios plus Scarf Politoed. But with Protect, look at how dumb Tentacruel is. So, just got to keep chipping away at it, hoping he doesn't get burned. Hoping Keldeo does better than Breloom did. And the tension is palpable because it's just slowly but surely bringing it lower and lower. So I think this was like an expert belt Keldeo. And it somehow avoids the burn. And at this point there's... I mean, the thing is that Tentacle can still double protect. So there's that issue. And the question is, how does he break through the Tentacruel here? Because here he's got to go for the Draco, which, you know, no nonsense, bring down the Jirachi, but he's going to be running out of PP. And what does he do against this Jirachi that now fires off a Body Slam and can get up to full HP? So Politoed comes in. Is it Scarf? Doesn't get the para. Now Tentacruel switches in, but it's not Scarf, it's Leftovers. So he's going to have bulk, so I think it was a Scarf Keldeo. So he's just going to keep scalding, and the Jirachi is not going to be able to Iron Head it down. So he went for a Body Slam there. I think he was predicting Latios to come in on an Iron Head just so it could safely spam Surf. So that was a good thought, but McMegan just wanted to drive it home. And McMegan makes a great move, Encores. So it's still not over, because, well, if he stayed in, then he could have been messed up by full para, but now he makes a great move, and the Tentacruel is locked into Scald, switches Latios, Dragon Pulses, wins. Incredible game, both sides. And what is it with McMegan and just unleashing a different beast in Smogon Tour Finals when his back is against the wall in black and white? Had Breloom both times too. I'm referencing the Sung game, which is on my channel. So that was the first Pokemon's Greatest Battles, actually. So yeah, there was that one. So let's see. All right, we are on to battle number 4. This one was from November 22nd, 2015, so that would be season 18. So this was a quarterfinals game, I believe, between PDC and Cosine 180, two of the best current Aurus players, or at the time Aurus players. So we got some faces we don't really see too much anymore. We got Kieran Black, Talonflame, Mega Gardevoir, and those guys aren't seen much anymore. And here we see Mega Heracross, who's rare, and Hoopa Unbound, who's banned. So, yeah. Hera lead, and face-to-face with Orlando. I'm not sure about that Hera lead. I guess if he was expecting Pharaoh, but Pharaoh doesn't seem like a great lead against a team with Hera and Heatran, so I'm not going to read too much into it. But I did think that this game had a lot of great stuff. So he just leads off with Hera, and he's going to chip away at Lando with Rock Blast as Lando just gets up rocks. PDC doesn't have any defog or spin, so his rocks are going to stay, especially because Cosine doesn't have to defog. He has spin. This kind of team was the Cosine signature. He loved that stuff. So PDC's running something... I mean, he liked his bulky stuff, but this time around he gave himself a little more muscle with Heracross and Hoopa, two of the most ridiculously strong Pokemon there are. So Now Lando's going to struggle to, well, he has leftovers, so it's not going to struggle to check Heracross throughout the game, but the chip is definitely appreciated as he keeps rock blasting it. And Cosine U-turns slowly, gets in Gardevoir safely. So Mega War is a massive threat to anything defensive. PDC tries to pivot Slowking into a Focus Blast aimed at Heatran or Ferrothorn, but it just eats a Hyper Voice. Now, he can regenerate, but man, Gardevoir is a threat. It fell off with, the popularity of Metagross and Diancie, but good lord, scary stuff. So he does not risk a Focus Blast, just goes right to Ferrothorn. Really nice move because he's going to follow that up with a knockoff, and that's better long term because this means that Starmie will be able to keep up. Starmie will be able to deal with PDC's Ferrothorn better later on, and he reveals his Ferrothorn to be the Stealth Rocker, not Heatran. So now Heracross comes back in as Cosine just goes for spikes. He can't switch around as much given his Stealth Rock weak, so he has to go reactive, but his spikes are also going to go a long way because he, some might say, well, shouldn't he be double switching? But because PDC's got such big threats, but he can't really afford to because PDC could just stay in and go for spikes, and instead he can just punish PDC with more spikes. That will actually make it easier to play around those threats in the long term, even if in the short term he has to sacrifice something, softening them up for Gardevoir and Talonflame. So Heracross comes in once again on the Pharaoh spiking, and this time Landorus is going to get taken out. So early lead, but he's about to lose another Pokemon to Gardevoir, so the 6-5 is about to become a 5-5. So here comes the Vor, Mega on Mega, and he's going to run out of there, and now with Ferrothorn weakened, chipped, and no lefties, then no chance against Hyper Voice, so no need to risk Focus Blast. So that was a great example of not getting caught up in the short term and planning for a longer term advantage by Cosine. That is positioning. For those of you who are wondering about that when it was asked in the Discord questions, that is an example of it. So now, of course, he's not very well equipped to switch into Scarf Landorus because of his own Landorus being gone and his other EQ immune being Quad Stealth Rock weak. So he doesn't want to risk it getting U-turned on. So he just goes to Kyurem because Kyurem's, in terms of wall breaking, Gardevoir has it covered. So he's going to just sack that. He is not Scarf Kyurem, and he's just going to get KO'd. So yeah, now he can go to Starmie though. That was, see, again, long-term, short-term sack, long-term success. And the spin is going to help out now because now Talonflame is a big threat. Of course, PDC is doing a great job of, with the more offensive spin on his team, if his team was more bulky and unable to immediately threaten Cosine, he would be toast here. But since he can go from Lando forcing an EQ KO to Hoopa forcing a KO as Cosine is forced to sack first his Kyurem to get the spin off and then his Starmie because nothing switches into Dark Pulse or Hyperspace Fury. This was before Specs became popular, so Hyperspace Fury. So PDC is still harassed by the hazards and he's not going to have his own, but he's able to bring the game within reach just by having so much power that he is able to bring the Pokemon, amount of Pokemon Cosine has left to deal with down significantly, and that goes a long way. So, of course, now Gardevoir is going to come in once more and get another KO, so it's the 5-3 is quickly turned into a 4-3, but here comes Landorus once again. Now, here's where it gets tricky because Talonflame's at full health, and if you just get, with Rocks and Spikes, then Slowking can't regenerate to outside of Hyper Voice range without first switching out several more times, which means losing more Pokemon, which means the game's over anyway, and especially because Slowking doesn't even threaten Gardevoir back, not by a long shot. So now, what does he do? Does he U-turn? Does he... the move seems to be U-turn because it chips Gardevoir while still maintaining momentum against Talonflame. So that's what it's going to be. So he goes to that Talonflame, not wanting to go to Ferrothorn because that gives Heracross a free switch, and that would be another KO, most likely. So PC makes a great move and goes to Slowking here for extra leftovers instead of going right to Heatran. That's how we don't know his Heatran set. So he's going to eat a burn, and he's going to get stalled out one-on-one by this specially defensive Talonflame. So that doesn't really do much for him. And, unless this suddenly pulls out Nasty Plot or something, it's not looking good if the Talonflame is taunt and can handle it. So Cosine makes a surprise move and goes for a Swords Dance. PTC was expecting a passive Roost, but as some of these games have shown us already, being aggressive, even in a riskier situation, being aggressive when you're expected to be passive can really turn the tide of a game. And now the Swords Dance is big because with the +2 Brave Bird, he's not itemless, he's not going to have acrobatics, then he's threatening the opposing team. So Lando is pretty much forced to go for Stone Edge here, and PDC switches to Heracross. And sorry for letting that show up on screen. That was an unbelievable move because PDC was known for his very safe, very always make the safe play style. So to see him make a move like this was out of character, to say the least. So major props to him for that. That was aggressive in the best way, because Cosine was looking, the Lando was one of the few things keeping PDC afloat. And if he can play around that Lando and force a Leech Seed and, double switch potentially, then he's going to come back and win. But with PDC getting Heracross in, safely in this scenario is really tough. And that was one of the few ways he could do it. And now he's likely going to bridge the gap even more. We've got a bit of a prediction game because Ferrothorn dies in close combat but doesn't care about Rock Slide, and vice versa, or Rock Blast, sorry. And the other two don't care about close combat, but they die to Rock Blast. And PDC goes aggressive once again, not squandering the advantage, and Gardevoir goes down. So Cosine is banking it all on Talonflame, which is still a smart move because with Lando weakened, if it keeps switching in and out of Stealth Rock, then eventually he's going to be in range. And we don't know what the Heatran set is. If it's toxic, then he's probably... If it's toxic, he loses the game no matter what, because he can't fit Will-O-Wisp, Bruce, Swords Dance, Taunt, and Brave Bird. So if it was Taunt Talonflame, that would be good against Toxic Heatran. If not, then he loses the game either way. But it's not a bad thing to put his hopes into, because so far he hasn't been trying to use the Heatran against the Talonflame. So what would you would expect that the Heatran is helpless against it. I mean, he would have preferred to have his Gardevoir still around because that was also a KO, but by taking the initiative when it was least expected, then PDC removed Cosine's option to go for that forced KO with Gardevoir and instead took one with his own Heracross. That was really beautifully done. That is one of my favorite dynamics in Pokemon, managing to outplay the opposing threat by using your own. So the Talonflame goes for Roost, and Heatran reveals HP Rock, of all things. So it was a Scarf HP Rock Heatran, which of course means Ferrothorn switches into it, and Heracross doesn't want to come in with the hazards up and potential double. But yeah, so Cosine doubles, and PDC just goes for the HP Rock. Beautiful move. I mean, at that point, he was probably just making sure Heracross came in safely, and then he could close combat or Rock Blast and then try to win with Lando. I mean, no, it was still tough because Cosine definitely could have won, because if he stays in as Heracross goes for... if he stays in as Heracross goes for Rock Blast, and Talonflame can stall out Slowking, and it can switch around Landorus, so he definitely could have won. So PDC couldn't just let his Pokemon die. There was still a prediction component. But that was really great. He figured, look, I can afford to stay in for a turn, and Cosine will double back to Talonflame most of the time, just so he doesn't let Heracross in, just so he gets lefties back, so he continues to pressure me, and he read that beautifully. So this was a great game by PDC against one of the toughest opponents he could have, and it was really exemplary, especially because so many people considered him to not be capable of this kind of play. And just when it was least expected, then he pulled it out. So massive props to him for that. So that was a great game. So we're at 4 games already, and because I'm really generous, we have 2 bonus games. So instead of the usual 5+1, it's 5+2 today. So yada yada, and Heatran goes for Lava Plume because good even on Scarf. So bonus number 1, another Oris game from the same time period, November 14th, 2015. So Smogon Tour 18, this one was for round 1. This is TDK against Shoka. TDK is running a really aggressive team, also with Gardevoir, and it's one of my favorites just for its relentless pressure. Now, it's the kind of team that you would think would get overrun by a team like Shoka's in the long run, but you won't if you make the most out of your threats, and this game is a fantastic example of that. So Skarmory comes in, already a massive pain, and TDK is forced to go to T-Tar on Heatran. I don't know if he was also scouting. He's forced to go to T-Tar and Skarmory. I don't know if he was also scouting for Heatran. That might have been it. But T-Tar into Skarm is generally not ideal. So he's forced to stay in and go for a Banded Stone Edge. Does a ton to the specially defensive Skarmory of the time, trying to stave off Gardevoirs and Diancies and Latioses. So there was that, and now he's just able to fire off another Banded Stone Edge. Not going to do a lot to Tank Chomp, or, I mean, it's 2 KO and Keldeo, but there's the thing that, so here's the idea, that he is out in front, he's getting the big damage on early, and just like the last game, that is what's going to allow him to compete down the stretch. So, Shoka reveals himself to be Scarf HP Ice Keldeo, which is going to 2 KO his Latios. Now, TDK does not want to get caught on a double switch. Like, for example, if he switched to Keldeo and Shoka switched to Zam, that would be really not good. So he just stays in, and down goes Latios, unfortunately. But he didn't just sack it just to sack it. He sacked it because he knew even if Keldeo stays in, he's going to get something out of it. So here comes Gardevoir, which, if the last game was any indication, is you kind of take its attacks, and you're probably going to lose something, but then you force it out, right? And that's probably what Shoka's counting on. And TDK goes for a Calm Mind. So yeah, cool, that's fine. Calm Mind is not... Usually you see Hyper Voice, Focus Blast, and stuff like Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, HP Fire, Psyshock, stuff like that. So you can see stuff like that, Protect sometimes, but you also... you generally are not going to... You're generally not going to be fighting through subs. And Heatran, even if it's a Calm Mind boost, you just get a Lava Plume off on it. So, and you're going to chip it. So here's the thing. It's still going to be chipped, but it's going to get a sub up because at +1, Lava Plume Tran is not going to break that sub, and it's going to... so that way, TDK gets 2 KOs out of this Gardevoir, and that is really big for bringing the game back. So he does not risk the Focus Blast accuracy, he just goes for a Hyper Voice. Stealth Rock is annoying, but fine. So that was really big. That's why losing the Latios was worth it, because it gave this Gardevoir a chance to come in and blast 2 things. Okay, shut up, ad. Sorry. Yeah, so second thing gets blasted. Good night. And yeah, so now he's gonna... I mean, look, the score is essentially 4-4 now, but with 2 big pieces down, and TDK still has a ton of big hitters left, then it's a lot more manageable to clean up. So he's not necessarily going to just sack the Gardevoir either, as Landorus comes in on Garchomp, and you'd think, uh-oh, well, this gives Skarmory a free chance to roost. Nope, it's Swords Dance. The offense just keeps coming, as TDK's Double Dance Landorus, because Swords Dance and Rock Polish, is going to take that out, and it's going to put a huge chunk in Rotom, so even though it goes down, now Gardevoir comes back in, blasts something else, and then it's going to be Clean Up City. So, just ceaseless offensive pressure. You could say maybe he could have gone right to Rotom, but if he was the more expected Scarf Lando, then Skarmory was definitely better, so he doesn't get needless chip on the Rotom, especially because the Rotom was important to staving off a late-game Keldeo. So, this is a Scarf Garchomp, and it is, or rather, this is a Scarf Keldeo, so he's going to be cleaning up in return. Hydro Pump Accuracy willing, it's willing, and now the Mega Alakazam is going to take the Hydro Pump. Oh no, it gets crit, but it doesn't kill the Jirachi afterwards. So that was a really great game from TDK. I really liked how that one was executed. Now a Gen 4 game, Blue versus X-Ray, November 16th, 2014, round 1 of Smogon Tour 18. So Blue is using a team I gave her, I believe. Very cool. So Blue was known for the semi-stall style, and X-Ray was a new player at this time, very inexperienced in DPP, and I'm pretty sure was given a team that was supposed to be very anti-Blue, and Blue's execution in this game was just fantastic. So starting out with a U-turn Gliscor to bypass a taunt and break an arrow sash, and now it is vulnerable to be KO'd by a multitude of things, like Rotom's Thunderbolt. So he's just going to Stone Edge, trying to bring the arrow down, and gets T-bolted. So not a great start. So here in comes Weavile, already unusual. So Night Slash comes up short. Blue stays in, knowing that it's not going to KO, and gets a burn off on the Weavile. You know, pursuing a full health Rotom is not feasible, and if the Stone Edge connected, then it could have been pursuited. It would have been a pursuit war. Who knows? If there's a time to pursuit, it's now, and Blue actually gets trapped on the switch, so nice move there. And so nice move on X-Ray's end there. So now he's fallen behind. Now she's fallen behind. Sorry. And but Skarm comes in, gets up the spikes, but it's all about the long term. Even though Magnezone comes in and is going to remove it. So here comes an underrated Pokemon in Celebi, setting the stage with more rocks. Magnezone's not a threat at all. And even if there's a Starmie, which there likely is, then it's not coming into Celebi. So a lot of Pokemon are going to feel the brunt of the rocks and spikes. So this is why I think Rock Celebi is terrific, by the way. So stays at full health, massive threat to a lot of offensive pokes. Here comes Flygon. Scarf does not kill Celebi, so Blue stays in, and that's not Scarf. That is Banded. It just comes up barely short. Not wanting to give up momentum with Gliscor, because if the U-turn poke doesn't force Celebi out, then it's likely that it's just going to be able to stay in and further annoy the team, especially with hazards up. So nice move not going to Gliscor there, and now finds out it's a Banded Flygon. So very aggressive team from X-Ray. And a Starmie almost guaranteed with the Weavile. So there's Celebi just tanking it, and on the second recover, X-Ray makes a nice move and chips it more with HP Fire or Ice, probably Fire. Ice Magnezone isn't very good. And now goes back to Flygon on the Hidden Power Fire, knowing that Blue could not just safely go for a Leaf Storm there, or a Grass move, let's say, because I know it was Leaf Storm, but most people don't look at Stealth Rock Celebi, especially on a defensive team, and go, oh, it's probably got Leaf Storm. No, they usually think Grass Knot or Energy Ball to break Rotom subs, but usually Grass Knot because it's a lot stronger against Suicune and Gyarados and Empoleon. So, yeah, Leaf Storm could not be used there because if you get into it with Magnezone, it can win one-on-one, it can get ugly. So that was a nice move on X-Ray's end. Now Gliscor does have to come in, U-turn, safe, and now Starmie also comes in. So if it doesn't have Ice Beam, then it's not getting past Celebi. If it does have Ice Beam, then it has to use it twice to get rid of it. So that did nothing, actually. That was a very Spidef Celebi. I forgot about that. So he has to use 2 Ice Beams to get rid of it on the switch, or he has to Ice Beam it on the switch, because otherwise he will not be able to... He cannot both spin and KO the Celebi with Ice Beam. It's one or the other. So that was the right move from Blue, and now here comes the trusty Scarf Tar to remove the Starmie with Pursuit. And this was when Showdown was not as developed, so it wasn't showing that Starmie switched there, just like it didn't show that Rotom switched and got Pursuited earlier. But it did. Both of them did. So in comes Magnezone. Gliscor comes in. Lack of a good switch last, because Starmie is very likely last on Blue's team. And Toxic. So Toxic Protect Magnezone was a popular set for a time. And it's very irritating for the reasons you're about to see. So Blue's trying to keep up momentum with U-turn. And X-Ray's not going to risk it. Flygon is not immediately threatened here. So good move. Blue keeping up health with Roost. And here comes a big Banded Outrage. So not going to take Gliscor out because it's really bulky, but Gliscor is now definitely in the danger zone. So Starmie comes in and reveals Ice Beam. Unusual on a team like this, but Starmie was offensive. The surprise factor goes a long way. So the last Pokemon on X-Ray's team is almost surely going to be a Dragon type. Very likely Dragonite, because Starmie spin support and Magnezone to remove steals, then it screams Dragonite. So Gliscor is going to get sacrificed here. Or not necessarily sacrificed, because to actually KO it on this turn, then X-Ray would have needed to use HP Fire, and I think the move was definitely Thunderbolt there. Not that it really mattered, because if Magnezone's out of Starmie range, regardless of that Protect. So yeah, now here's the big one. Do you stay in and risk it? Nope. X-Ray does reveal the Dragonite, which is not going to be able to get a Dance Up. because it's definitely Dragon Dance. It's got to be the cleaner, and Gliscor just taunts it, and yeah, down it goes. Taunt, or rather, the Dragon Dance is foiled. So here comes Magnezone, and it's looking like Gliscor is just going to win the game because he's got to protect. Blue's just making sure that the Magnezone does not get cheeky and HP fire on a roost. So double protect. Uh-oh, triple protect. That's ugly. And now things are complicated because if T-Tar kills Magnezone with a superpower or Earthquake, then it's scarfed, so Dragonite will be able to set up a dance and then win the game. And Starmie, of course, cannot kill Magnezone, so creative methods have to be utilized. So first off, hydroing the Magnezone into low HP, not quite low enough. So the T-Tar has to pull some heroics here by going for a lot of Stone Edges. It won't die to Magnezone, but it has to hit 2 Stone Edges on Zone. And I don't know why X-Ray probably should have just attacked there. Not that it makes a huge difference, I don't think. But because it all comes down to Stone Edge accuracy regardless. So there's 1. And there's 2. Because, yeah, Toxic or Thunderbolt don't do anything. And now here's the last one. And good night. So that was a hell of a finish. So, yeah. All right. Our final game. Once again, Posho. I actually had to download this replay file because it was the replay file on Showdown is corrupted. So Posho uploaded it to Mediafire. So yeah, this was the finals of Smogon Tour 23, and Posho was against Bengay or Krang, and Ben was just mowing through players left and right with his bizarre Dugtrio antics in every gen. 5, 6, and 7, because this was the first tour with those 3 generations. And Posho was just a man on a mission. So weird stuff going on from Ben with the unusual Wobbuffet and then usual Sun antics, because at this point Dugtrio wasn't banned and Excadrill's around, and he's even got the Latios to further pile on the anti-T-Tar sentiment. Have I run out of tracks? No, not even close. Cool. So he's going to lead off with that Wobbuffet, and Posho leads off with Jellicent. Great lead off because it is not immediately threatened by the ad that's playing right now. Okay, so that was a great move. It completely shuts Wobbuffet down with Taunt, and it also prevents Ninetales from Will-O-Wisping. So Ben does not stay in because he does not want to just Flamethrower helplessly into Tyranitar or Garchomp. So he goes to Volcarona. And Volcarona can, depending on its set, can annoy T-Tar, but it's more about just bringing T-Tar into range of... bringing T-Tar in so that it can be Dugtrio'd. So, Doug comes in, and Fiery Dance does nothing. He was looking to absorb a Giga Drain, and Ben, I think, was just looking to... I'm not really sure, because... he might just have some sort of wacky set. That's the kind of thing Ben does. But, Fiery Dance doesn't really hit any switch-in better. So, he switches out Flame Body Pursuit, but it's still not going to be in range of a Sash Dugtrio. So, Posho is going to get Rocks up. Depending on the set, he might be able to spin block them with Excadrill. But because he's got a Scarf Garchomp, then that's the major threat. Rocks are not the end-all, be-all. It's nice, but... not necessary. And in comes Soulwind. With Rocks up, then this thing can be a huge, huge threat with Nasty Plot. Of course, he can get Encored into an attack, and Encored into Nasty Plot, and then be setup fodder for Volk, or more, not setup fodder for Volk, but give Excadrill an opportunity to spin, and if he just attacks, then he can get Mirror Coated, so he's not going to mess around. He's going to Giga Drain, he's going to Encore, and it's going to be a Custap Wobbuffet, so he's going to take the Celebi down with D-Bond, but that's not the worst, because the bigger thing is that the Wobbuffet is no longer around to take out the Garchomp. Scarf Chomp is by and large the biggest threat here. So Posho goes to Jellicent to deny Spin, and Ninetales uses Toxic, which is unusual. They almost always run Will-O-Wisp, so that's a nice call for bulky waters here. Toxic Fire Spin, really making sure that Dugtrio is going to do Dugtrio things. So Nightshade is a great call on Jellicent for substitute Tentacruels and Toxicroaks. So, and just general huge chip on Rotom because Rotom's HP is very low. So he's not bothering keeping it healthy. He knows it's a futile effort, so he's just gonna bring the Ninetales down with the Jellicent, and he's down in Pokemon, but his remaining guys are still majorly threatening. So, especially because Garchomp threatens pretty much everything. So here comes the Excadrill. Both of them have an air balloon, and Posho just goes for a Sun boosted HP Fire, knowing he can't get EQ'd. Ben goes for the Roost, or for the spin, because he absolutely has to, and Excadrill goes down, and it's 3-3, but now here comes Latias, and that's, well, we don't know, because Garchomp can't switch into it, and Calm Mind Latias can definitely be a major threat without all those guys, without Heatran or T-Tar around to stop it, or Jirachi, but Sub-Calm Mind and Skarm's still around. And here's where Skarm is going to threaten the Sun team. The spinning is gone. Spiking is not going to KO Volk even with 3 layers. And but it is going to mean it only switches in once. And right now it does look like Scarf Garchomp is going to win. But it's not as simple as that. Because he's got to phase out the Latias. And Latias Dragon Pulse unboosted does not KO Garchomp from full health. But it also, it can be dangerous if he gets a boost up first and he has a sub up. That's what he's got to be careful about. So Posho decides to go right to Garchomp instead of phasing around more so Volcarona doesn't pull any tricks. And he gets crit by an Earthquake, so yikes, that's rough. He just goes for an Outrage because nothing can switch into it. And now his only hope is to Flame Body burn the Volcarona and stall it out with Latias, and looks like he got it, and this might mean hopes and dreams crushed, but because Latias is just going to boost to +6, and that'll be the game, right? Well, not really, because Skarmory has Taunt, and he cleverly hid it until now, so Ben couldn't plan with it in mind, and now all he has to do is stall out not even 16 Dragon Pulses, 14, and they're all going to be at +1. He'll get a boost here and there, but it's not going to be enough, especially because he's going to taunt, so he's only going to get 1 Calm Mind boost at a time, and he's going to run out really, really fast. So he's going to stall the Latias out, and that's going to be the game. He also has 2 Pokemon to burn minimum 3 more, or minimum 2, because it can crit the Magnezone with enough boosts, but Garchomp is 1. Actually, no, Garchomp is burned, so we can Roost stall that, but Magnezone forces a couple more if it comes down to it. And clever Roost stalling to avoid, double crit nonsense, because he's forced to attack, and he's just burning through them. So the Roosts are only valuable for stalling out the Dragon Pulses. And there's the next Calm Mind, and now he's at to +3. He's got 7 left. He needs some serious multi-crit action here. And even then might not be enough if it comes too late. So we're down to 6 versus 8 Roosts. We're down to 5 versus 7 Roosts. We're down, there goes the taunt, so now he's not even going to bother Calm Minding again. He makes a good move and goes for Dragon Pulse there, because that means he might be able to win if he crits one of them as Posho goes for the necessary taunt. He doesn't get the first crit, and he doesn't get the second one, which in my opinion is very deserved considering the Flame Body burn. So Posho is really earning this very gritty game, very well thought out. And now 2, so now he can't, now it's just game over. So that is the game, and Posho, this was the game that, actually no, this let Posho go up 1-0 in the series, and then he won Sun and Moon, and he became the Smogon Tour 23 champion. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the battles and the commentary over them and the hype factor and whatnot. So yeah, that has been it. So I will be back very soon. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you took something from this, and I will catch you next time.